Marathon looks really weird, looks slightly off, something about it. I don't know, man. It seems really, really cool and like a game I would totally play, but they haven't sold me on it yet. And if they haven't sold it on me yet, then you know what that means? It means I'm probably not gonna buy it. And I really want to buy it if it's gonna be good. If everybody's gonna be talking about it and it's gonna be real big, like some people are suggesting, it's gonna be the next big thing. But I don't want to just listen to everybody hating on it, and I don't want to listen to everybody glazing it. I want to come to my own conclusion. So I'm gonna just go ahead and watch a couple of videos about it. And if I don't come to a conclusion, then my conclusion will be set for me that I'm not gonna buy this game unless some mind-blowing information comes out about it. And then I'm out of the conversation. I might check out what the lore is about, and then I'll be done.
Don't make fun of me for the minor sunburn. I looked out the window for 5 seconds, and this was the result of it. But it's been wild for me to sit back and watch as people have been visibly confused over the reception of...
If bro got sunburned that easily just by looking out a window, he probably needs to go outside more.
Bungie's upcoming game, Marathon. And I've seen writers, I've seen journalists, I've seen
I'm one to talk, though. I barely leave my house.
commentators and content creators and fans all sitting back going, I'm just so sick of how toxic things have become. How could you be so critical of something that's not even out yet?
Something that you haven't even played. That's what everybody says. Like, we can't just look at something and determine whether or not we're gonna think it's fun based on our own opinions and feelings. It's all subjective. People like different things. People are different. They want everybody to be the same and eat up their garbage slop, which, not saying that Marathon is. I don't know what it's like yet. It seems really cool, but there's something I really don't like about it.
It's almost like we haven't been, for the better part of the last decade, watching as these companies have been torching their reputation at both ends, while also at the exact same time bending these players over backwards, taking advantage of them. You want these guys to be optimistic? What? Marathon doesn't have an uphill battle. It has a mountain to climb, and that's not a mountain that the players put there. That's an obstacle Bungie put there.
Yeah, because they kind of did a lot of people dirty with Destiny 2. I mean, it's got a fan base, but the people who really, really wanted to like it, they got burned pretty quick, especially early on, because Destiny 2, whenever it started, it was a complete mess, and it just doesn't look as good as Destiny 2, so people are kind of iffy on it.
It's not that Marathon as a game conceptually can't find an audience. I do think an audience is there for it. How big that is, that's a completely different story.
Yeah, it's not going to be like a Concord situation. I think it's definitely going to be successful. Maybe not going to be the next big thing. Probably going to be as big as Destiny 2 is right now. Maybe a little bigger, maybe a little less. Who knows? Honestly, everybody's saying that extraction shooters are the next big thing. It's going to replace Battle Royale. I don't think so. I think single players, like, experiences are going to be what's becoming popular right now. It seems to be what everybody's turning to, but they're wanting to put live services in it.
But its biggest issues aren't tied to the game, it's tied to Bungie. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about the negative discourse that's surrounding Marathon right now. I want to talk about why it is the way that it is. I want to talk about how Sony and Bungie have essentially clipped its wings before it can even fly. And I'd like to talk about whether or not Marathon can run or fall flat on its face. Spoiler.
I think it's going to jog. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be that bad.
It's going to be a little bit of both. Just last week, Bungie finally pulled back the curtain on their upcoming extraction shooter, Marathon, a name that echoes from the depths of the studio's past. For those that are unfamiliar, Marathon wasn't just one of Bungie's earliest projects, it was their beginning. Originally developed for the Mac in the mid-90s, the Marathon trilogy gave Bungie its first taste of recognition, but it also nearly killed them. One of the games in the series was shipped with a critical error that, no exaggeration, was wiping players' hard drives upon installation. The backlash for this was catastrophic. Bungie was drowning in returns and on the verge of bankruptcy, and to survive, they ended up cutting a deal with Microsoft, and in exchange for covering the damages, Bungie would develop a new project for Microsoft and their upcoming console, the original Xbox. That project was Halo. So in a way,
that's funny. Halo was born from a disaster.
Marathon was both the origin of Bungie's fame and their near-death experience that then forced them into pivoting into a franchise that made them into legends. Now here we are 3 decades later, they're dusting off that legacy and they're gambling with fate all over again.
And to be noted, I mean, this is not the same company that it was 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Completely different company. I think after Halo Reach is really whenever they did a big shift, whenever they got out of Halo.
Now, this new Marathon, controversially enough, is set to be a 3-player squad-based PvEvP extraction shooter. Players are going to be taking on the role of runners, humans that have abandoned their mortal bodies for sleek cybernetic shells, chasing fame and fortune across the ruins of Tau Ceti. After a mysterious calamity had wiped out the planet's researchers, corporations had stepped in, sponsoring these runners to come in and scavenge whatever's left.
That sounds a lot like Borderlands. It really does. It sounds like it could be an offshoot of Borderlands, or like a ripoff of sorts. Seems like Marathon's kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of ideas.
Data, secrets, whatever they can get their hands on. Players are going to battle with hostile AI sentinels, alien threats, and other squads in a race to, well, extract before being wiped out. Bungie has also gone on to hint a little bit more at larger scale events as well, boss encounters, dungeons, maybe even some Destiny-style raids if we're lucky that might be hiding underneath the surface of this game. Now, on paper, this should have been a slam dunk. A major studio with one of the strongest FPS pedigrees in all of gaming, reviving a long-dormant IP, creating a very distinct-looking sci-fi world within a genre that really isn't all that overcrowded.
It came out swinging, I gotta say. I was super interested at that Death Stranding beach vibe that it was given right there at the beginning. I was loving it, and how it kind of had the cyberpunk feel. Whenever the colors started to come in, where I was just like, why is the colors so bright and everything else so flat? I see what they're going for, but they need to do something else to it. It's too clean. If they cell shaded it, I've been saying this, if they just went in and cell shaded everything.
5 or 6 years ago, I think this would have lit the gaming world on fire, but times have changed, my friends, and this game's reception couldn't have been any colder. Instead of hype, the announcement was met with skepticism, sarcasm, and exhaustion. Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, go ahead and pick your platform. Doesn't really matter where you're looking, because very few players were impressed, and even fewer were optimistic. Day over day, as more information has been revealed, the backlash against both Bungie and Marathon has only gotten worse. I think the first red flag of this reveal was the genre itself. Marathon is a hero-based extraction shooter. That alone is going to raise some eyebrows. While Bungie definitely has a long history of being praised for its PvP in Halo and Destiny, what's truly made them who they are,
I think people are just getting tired of these weird sci-fi cartoon style online shooters. Doesn't matter if it's a different kind of game mode. It's still a first-person shooter. There's not really much you can do with that.
Is there PvE content? Say what you will about Destiny's monetization and its seasonal bloat. Believe me, we'll talk about that later. But there is a reason why their raids and dungeons are considered the gold standard for MMO-styled action combat. Beyond that, keep in mind that this game doesn't seem to have any narrative, and it's not going to feature any type of PvE cooperative modes, yet Bungie has built their entire empire on cinematic storytelling, memorable characters, and finely tuned cooperative play. So this sudden pivot into a genre that appeals to a completely different audience of player just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't align with what their audience wants.
I think they're doing it for the money, and they think it's going to make them money because it's like a game that can be built completely around live service, completely around their skin shop and their storefront, and making your character look cool and weird and sci-fi. Looks like they can have more of the cartoon style characters and like maybe even some licensed characters in there. They want it to be the next Call of Duty Warzone.
Feels like trend chasing, plain and simple. And on top of that, the extraction shooter genre is brutal. There are really only, 2 success stories that we have, Escape from Tarkov and Hunt Showdown. Nearly every other attempt has face-planted after launch because these games are niche by design. They're not meant to be easily digestible or streamlined experiences. Their very appeal lies in their punishing loops, the tension, the messiness, the lack of hand-holding. The moment you try to sand off the edges to appeal to a broader audience, you kill what makes these games special. Simplify the loot and the game feels hollow, add revives.
It really just gives off indie mobile game vibes, but with upgraded graphics. Does it not?
And you cut the stakes. Throw in flashy abilities and you undermine player skill. Any of these changes tells fans of that genre that this studio doesn't understand what they're building, and Bungie is already making all of those changes. I mean, case in point, there's no proximity chat in Marathon because according to Bungie, it would be way too toxic. I am so sick of this, by the way. This constant desire to soften and sanitize the edges of every gaming experience. This isn't making games safer, it's making them less interesting. The only thing that's safe about them is
The people who are saying that online gamers are toxic say things that are probably worse all the time. They just don't want them to be said to them. It's stupid. They're stupid. I'd liked it better Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 days. Like Halo 3, Halo Reach. It was like the Wild West out there, man. If you didn't like somebody, you muted them.
nobody's going to be playing them. In an extraction shooter, proximity chat isn't just flavor, it's function. It creates emergent, unforgettable moments. I cannot tell you guys how many times I've run into another player while playing Escape from Tarkov, adrenaline pumping, we're awkwardly trying to negotiate a ceasefire. Maybe we part ways peacefully, maybe we actually team up, maybe we betray each other in the next 5 minutes. That tension, that unpredictability, that's what makes this genre. Bungie stripping it out in the name of safety shows that either they don't get it or they're too afraid to embrace it. Now, if that wasn't
100% they don't get it. They don't play games. All they do is work and then go home and probably watch Avatar: The Last Airbender live action and Rings of Power. They probably don't even do that. They probably don't even consume their own content. It's just their job. They're thinking about money. There's no passion in it. How much money can they squeeze out of you? The only reason it looks good and plays good is because they know that'll draw people back in. If they knew that they didn't have to do that to make as much money as they do, then they wouldn't do that.
enough, and I really love this part. I love when these developers do this, but when fans were asking if the game would include more PvE-focused content, maybe offer some options down the road for players that want something more cooperative over competitive encounters, Bungie responded with everybody's favorite line, "This game isn't made for you," telling fans of Destiny PvE that they don't recommend Marathon to them. Seriously, that's the message that you guys want to be sending to the Destiny community. The same people that have funded the game that you're making right now through years of support, expansions, and micro...
I don't know. I don't see that one as big a deal. You can make games that aren't for your audience for your other games. And I believe that sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you gotta tell people, like, if you are thinking this is gonna be this game and it's not, it's gonna be a different game. If you don't like that, it's not for you. I don't see an issue with that.
Transactions that they purchased in Destiny 2, Bungie isn't just ignoring their core audience here, they are actively alienating them. It is baffling to me how many of these studios continue to make the exact...
I think what they're really doing is they're trying to pull in a new audience and monetize them with that. This game was probably kind of easy for them to come up with because they were basically just taking a bunch of ideas from other things and mashing them together. That's why they're still taking feedback. They don't really know what they're making. They're just making something so they can make some more money.
Same mistake, treating genuine questions like they're nuisances instead of an opportunity. Maybe, just maybe, if Bungie was paying attention, they would realize that players generally like the idea of a PvE-focused experience where they can then take what they earn into a more high-stakes PvP mode. It's the one thing that players have been waiting for and they've been wanting to get from Tarkov, and arguably, Bungie has the better skill set to deliver. Imagine if having a co-op PvE exploration mode or narrative mode where you can go and build your wealth, skill, and arsenal, and then go and take that into an extraction mode where there's more risk, where there's more reward, where the challenge is even greater. Players want that. That sounds like a great game that a lot of people would want to play. I do not understand how you miss a layup like this. Now you're sitting there saying to yourself, it just can't get any worse. LD, it can't get worse. Baby, it's 2025. Of course it can. Marathon, while only launching with 6 playable characters and 3 maps, is not going to be free to play. It's a premium title.
Yep, well, I'm probably out then. Unless it is really, really good. And it's like $40, I'm definitely not going to pay full price, even if people are saying it's 9 out of 10. I just don't got the money to be dropping on a full price video game.
Not only will players have to pay up front, the game will also launch with battle passes, microtransactions, and premium content. Bungie said it would be a premium product, and through their official Marathon Twitter later then clarified, saying that it won't be full price and details will come later, likely pointing to...
If some company releases a game that's like Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1 style game, and they don't put a store in it, it'll probably take over. It'll probably be the most played FPS action shooter, maybe even ever, because people are hungry for it, because they all have it.
Sony's strategy of pricing live service titles around $40 like Helldivers 2, Foam Stars, and Concord, noticing that only one of those games survived. Now, I've seen a lot of people trying to defend this, and I got something to say to you, by the way. People making comparisons to Helldivers 2, you clearly haven't played it. That game earned its $40 price tag through ethical monetization and great gameplay. Every cosmetic, every battle pass, every microtransaction in Helldivers 2 can be earned through gameplay. Their battle passes don't expire. The grind is fair. Players feel respected. That's the key.
Yeah, maybe Bungie will do it that way. Well, we're gonna have to see, because they're definitely gonna put microtransactions in it. But if they do it like Helldivers 2, you know, Helldivers 2 is really, really fun. I love that game, actually. I received that game for free though, so I don't know. I didn't pay $40 for it. But if Bungie handles it the same way Helldivers 2 was handled, then hey, yeah, and it's a good game with good gameplay. Yeah, man. I just don't see that happening. It's probably going to be more egregious than Destiny 2 is right now, because they want to try something different. So they're definitely going to try something different with their storefront. And we're going to have to see.
Bungie, on the other hand, has one of the worst reputations in the entire industry for monetization. Between Destiny 2's constantly shifting economy, disappearing content, and overpriced cosmetics, there is no reason at all to believe that Marathon will offer anything close to the level of goodwill of Helldivers 2. Sony saw the success of Helldivers 2 and took the wrong lesson. They saw the price point, not the philosophy behind it. I guess at least we can say that Sony did learn one good lesson from Helldivers 2, and they will not be requiring players to have a PlayStation account on PC or Xbox to be able to play Marathon.
That's a big up. That's a big plus. I didn't do the whole PlayStation account for Helldivers or any other game. I don't have any other PlayStation games besides that one, I don't think. Nothing requires any separate accounts. Some things tell me I need to be signed into EA, but I can get around it.
So what's my take on all of this? Honestly, I like these kind of games. I genuinely do. I dig the aesthetic. The world looks really intriguing, and I know Bungie's gunplay is still some of the best in the business. With that said, I'm incredibly skeptical whether or not they can pull this off. I do not like the hero shooter angle. Those character designs look painfully weak. The gameplay looks painfully slow. They are charging a premium price. They are known for predatory monetization, and they are already making compromises on what makes this sort of game special. You guys are entering into one of the most competitive and unforgiving markets in this industry.
I think it's going to be probably semi-successful, especially at first. A lot of people are going to be interested, and they're going to try it, at least for reviews and content. And there's a lot of content creators out there. But whether or not people stick around, that's going to be a hard one, especially right at the beginning, when I know there's going to be problems, because there's always problems with these types of games right at the beginning. There's going to be updates and patches and nerfs and buffs. It's going to be a mess. But maybe it can gain some traction over time and be as big as Destiny 2 or bigger, but I doubt it.
The bodies of dead live service games stretch as high as the unemployment lines are long, and you're making a bet on a genre that has far more casualties than it does successes. But you guys think you can do it better. I feel like this is just another chapter in this industry's ongoing identity crisis. We've reached the tail end of the Battle Royale boom. These publishers are now scrambling, trying to figure out what comes next. Extraction shooters, to them, seem like the next big experiment, but I don't think they're it. They're just too niche for a broad audience, and broad audiences aren't what Bungie is trying to target. Most players are going to lean hard in either one side or the other, either PvE or PvP focused games. Forcing both of them together narrows that appeal, and any compromise that you're going to make to try to cater to one side or the other ultimately will ruin this game for everyone. Now, that's not to say that Marathon can't find success, but I do think the kind of success that Bungie and Sony are banking on is a fantasy, especially if they're charging a premium price on top of battle passes and microtransactions. You're putting up a paywall around a game that lives or dies by player engagement. It makes no sense to me. You are actively pushing away the very people that might have just tried the game out of curiosity.
Yeah, this might end up actually being a Concord situation, not like with the low player count, but with the doesn't meet expectations, so they shut it down kind of way. I could see that happening with this, because there's not really anything that's pulling me in except for that beginning part of the trailer and what the story of this might be. Because it seems like it's not just going to be a regular jump in and play a shooter like PUBG or Fortnite. Seems like it's going to kind of have a backstory and a world, and I'm very interested in that aspect. They need to do some changes with the art style.
People who might have liked it, stuck around, and maybe even brought their friends with them. Now, I realize this is going to be a relatively cold take, but I just do not see the logic in charging an upfront cost for something that is effectively a free-to-play model. When your business depends on keeping players around for the long term, the only thing that matters is how many people you can get in the door and how long you can keep them there.
I think they're banking on a Destiny 2 situation when it came out. They're wanting people to buy in and then buy into the subscription of DLC and stuff that roll out. But also, whenever they roll out, they take stuff out. So everything that you paid for, you're paying for things to be taken out later on. Especially whenever they have issues, they'll take stuff out. Or if one of their new things clashes with one of their old things, they're going to take it out. You know, things like that.
I'm going to tell it to you guys straight. I think a lot of people are preaching platitudes when it comes to this game. I think that Sony spent $400 million on Concord. How much are they willing to spend on a Bungie live service title? I would guarantee there's some serious cash that flew into this. Not only that, but they spent $3 billion acquiring that company. They cannot afford for this game to be niche, but that's exactly what this game is going to be, because that's just what this genre is. And keep in mind, the Destiny 2 has not been financially viable. Or
Marathon looks like it was made with not a lot of money, but it might have been made with a lot of money, and that's not good, because it looks like an indie game. It looks like an indie mobile game, something that you play on a tablet or an iPad.
At least not as profitable as Sony needed it to be when they purchased Bungie for that $3 billion. So, yeah, this can't be a niche game. It needs to be a breakout hit. They need it to be a Helldivers 2. They need it to be a Marvel Rivals or even something bigger than that, and maintain that speed, not just have it fall off after a week or two or something like that.
Yeah, they're really banking on it being the next big thing, and I think they're telling people that, and other people are gaslighting themselves into believing that. It just doesn't seem like it's gonna be the next big thing. It needs to be a Fortnite, and I guarantee you this game is not gonna be a Fortnite. It's not even gonna be a Helldivers 2. I don't see that happening.
This already looks like a high-risk gamble in a genre that just cannot compete with the kind of numbers that both Sony and Bungie are going to be looking for. And you're already giving players plenty of reasons not to even try the game, let alone play it. I'm just saying try it or even be interested in it. $40 for a live service game with all of the trappings, no proximity chat. What are you guys thinking? Who's making these decisions? You know,
well, people pay $20 for a skin, so why wouldn't they pay $40 for an entire game? I mean, come on.
Ironically, if I was a publisher and I wanted to make a profitable live service game, you know what I would make? Destiny, but just not Destiny or Warframe. I think there is a genuine hunger from players that want an MMO-light action RPG experience that doesn't have players that have 10 years of experience in front of them. They want a even start. They want to be on the ground level with everybody else. And I think that the First Descendant showed that. I think that it also showed that if your game's not good, the players aren't going to stick around. But I think that showed a general hunger for something in the live service market that isn't there right now, or at least players aren't seeing that's there. And for Marathon, I just don't see that same kind of draw. And I don't think this game is going to make its money back. I just don't see it happen.
If they're planning on making their money back in a decade, I could see it. But if they're wanting to make their money back quickly and then make profit quickly, that I don't even know what they're thinking with this one. They probably got too far along in development and were like, we spent too much money to shut this down. We got to finish this and just release it and just take the loss. $40, it'll just be a full failure. We'll write it off.
Now, with that said, I still think that this launch is going to be a big deal. Bungie's name still carries weight. We're talking about the people that made Halo and Destiny. And for a lot of people, that's all you're going to need. There are going to be people that are going to line up to buy this game just off of the name alone.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be no Halo or even no Destiny.
not a lot of people are involved in these kind of conversations. We saw the same kind of thing with Assassin's Creed Shadows, though we don't necessarily know exactly how profitable or how popular that game actually is. But it makes a lot of sense as to why people would be confused by the general discourse surrounding Marathon right now.
I can tell you with Assassin's Creed Shadows, if they're gloating about 4 million players within 2 weeks, or within a week, however long it was, then it's not as successful as they were planning on it being. Because I think they were thinking it was going to be like one of the biggest games of all time. It was going to take the world by storm. Because, oh, an Assassin's Creed game? In Japan? We've been waiting for this for 15 years.
Now, they see the negativity, they see the identity politics and things like that, the heavy-handed criticisms, and they all look at it and ask, why are you rooting for something to fail that's not even out yet? And I think boiling down all that into toxicity and ideological hate misses the point entirely. People do not trust Bungie, and people do not trust Sony.
Most of the people who say those things, that you haven't even played it, man, it's not even out yet, man. Why are you wishing for failure? People worked on this. People spent time of their lives working on this, man. Should I applaud the man who makes a statue out of his own feces and say it's art and be happy and proud about it and buy it? No, ain't happening.
And you're putting them in the same room together. And that's not a good combination. That's not what players are looking for. And I think that this game is going to show them, both of these companies are going to suffer the consequences of taking advantage of the very players that they need for this game to succeed. Trust has been a reoccurring theme in some of my recent videos.
We need everybody to be playing this game, except you. I don't want your kind playing this game. The people who are mean to me, you can't play it. Also, if you're a fan of Destiny 2, we don't want you playing either, for some reason.
And Marathon might be the best case study yet that we've seen for what happens to a studio when it's burned through it entirely. What the media, publishers, developers, and even other players often miss out on, it's not just the tone that matters when it comes to criticism, it's the source.
I do want these games to fail, because that's just going to push the better games to the top. If all of the bad games fail, if all of the games pushing out slot, pushing out these shitty game mechanics, oh, everything else about it's good. I can look past the monetization. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to buy it. Yeah, I still gotta look at it. I still gotta see that it's there. And I know a lot of people who do buy it, and they don't need to be. And then they start focusing on the storefront and stop focusing on the actual game. Just look at Call of Duty. What it was and what it is now. Games like Marathon. Destiny 2, whenever it began, was not free. And all of that stuff was still in there. But worse. It was even worse. And the only reason they fixed it is because it was gonna fail.
Where is all of this unrest coming from? As a studio, your foundation for your next game should be the players that you already have. You build trust with them, you reward their loyalty, you grow from there. You do not abandon them to go chase an audience that you never even had, especially when that audience that you do have is already skeptical. But that's exactly what Bungie is doing here, because I don't think that Destiny players want Marathon, and I don't think the outsiders looking in are any more convinced after seeing how Bungie treats its own customers and their staff. They have turned their reputation into a currency, and they've spent all of it.
All of my friends that play video games have played a lot of Destiny 2, and I don't hear them or see them talking about it.
Sure, some criticisms may be hyperbolic, and yeah, in today's political climate, it's easy to fall back on ideological explanations, but let's set all of that aside for a second. Look at what's actually going on here. Let's look at the history here. Look at Destiny 2. Why would anyone trust Bungie? Why would anyone want to get excited for their next game? Destiny 2 brought with it a slow, relentless shift into predatory monetization. In-game rewards were stripped away and moved into the Eververse store. Then came content vaulting, an entire expansion that players had paid for, removed from the game. No refunds, no apologies, no real benefit for the players. Then they started sunsetting weapons that players had grinded for, invalidating progress, all in the name of balance, only for them to reverse course on that later. Then Sony bought them for $3.6 billion. Players were promised They were told that things would get better, more transparency, faster content, better communication. Instead, monetization got worse, content got buggier, and the development cycle slowed to a crawl.
Well, they needed money. They needed more money, so they had to ramp up the monetization because Destiny 2 wasn't making enough money, which in turn led to them making less money. That's how it goes. If you spend all your time shoveling shit, eventually you're gonna start to smell like shit.
Then came the layoffs. Sony started gutting the studio, cutting narrative leads and veteran developers. The same people who built what fans loved were then tossed aside. Reports of crunch, discrimination, and a toxic workplace then followed. Lawsuits then after that, all coming from a studio that constantly paraded around its progressive values in public, but apparently all for nothing. And after all of that, what do players get? They got Lightfall, a broken, bloated, recycled expansion that felt more like filler and cost the same as a full-price title. You know, let's not forget that this is the same Bungie that charges $150 for a free-to-play game, though Steam estimates it'll cost you over $450 if it's not all in a bundle for Destiny 2. There are battle passes, paid dungeons, cosmetic bundles, event cards, paywalled expansions, and a $60 expansion cycle. While it definitely seems that the game's latest expansion was received well, why would players be excited for anything that Bungie then puts out after this?
Especially something that looks like this and sounds like this. It just sounds like it's probably not going to be that good. It's just that cinematic trailer. It still got me for some reason, somehow.
They don't trust them, and frankly, they shouldn't. There's no loyalty left, no goodwill, just the appearance of a studio that's looking for new ways to squeeze the last few dollars out of whoever's left around. This is one of the reasons why they keep losing players, and when you treat players like disposable wallets, you can't be surprised when they treat your next project like a joke. Bungie and Sony are gambling with their franchises, betting everything on growth, on shareholder satisfaction, on live service revenue, but you don't build trust by gambling. You build it with respect.
I think Bungie has reached a point that they are nothing but corporate slop at this point. They've traded out all of the people that made Bungie magical because they were problematic. They were probably trying to control too much of the company and too much of the games because they were legacy, and they had to go. It was too risky. You can't have people getting offended, so because we gotta target the modern audience, the world audience, the global audience. We have to have everybody playing this game. So we gotta put in all of the things that everybody likes. And all the flashing lights. People like casinos. Let's put a casino in there.
Right now, that respect is gone. And look, I get it. I know that the discourse around games has gotten more toxic, but so has the way that players have been treated. Studios are demanding more money, offering less value, and when players push back, they're dismissed, they're mocked, they're told that this game isn't made for you. This isn't about ideology.
Good. If it's not made for me, then I'm not gonna play it. That's just how it is. And I'll know when a game is made for me. And if a game is not made for me, then I'm probably gonna talk about it. And if it's supposed to be a big game that's gonna impact the culture of video games, I'm gonna talk about it. And since everybody's talking about this game, I'm gonna talk about it.
This is the direct result of corporate bloat, of chasing endless growth in an industry that's already overextended. Eventually, you're going to hit a ceiling. You're going to outpace your own audience. And when you can't pull in any more players, the only thing that's left to do is to bleed the ones that you already have dry. How can you blame these players for being skeptical or negative when they're treated this way? I mean, if we take the time to look at all these criticisms through a lens of distrust, it all starts to make sense. Take Marathon's character designs. I personally do not find them appealing. Nothing about them really grabs me, but
I think it's the art style. I think it's the choice of art style for the characters. Does not look good with all the sci-fi backdrops. Because it kind of looks like AI generated backdrops a little bit. They might not be, but they definitely have that style going. Kind of like Dune. Even though Dune wasn't really AI generated, but this definitely could be more so than Dune was. And the characters don't look good enough for the backgrounds. The backgrounds are way too detailed. But also sometimes the backdrops are like not enough detail and look blocky and cartoonish.
understand what Bungie is going for here. This is
because that's a lot of detail right there. That is a whole lot of detail right here. But when they're in that one room, there's almost no detail. And it just all clashes.
transhumanist universe where people have just given up on humanity. Think Cyberpunk 2077, but another 800 years later. These people have cycled through death and rebirth until the point that they don't even know who they are anymore. These characters aren't supposed to look human, masculine, or feminine because canonically, they've lost touch with that. And this is the point that I think a lot of people miss, is that nuance is lost on a skeptical audience. They are not going to assume the best, they're going to assume the worst. I've seen the accusations, the backlash about androgyny, the character designs, the questions about who's leading the project. Some of it is ideological, sure, without a doubt, but all of it? No. I don't think it's all about gender or identity. I think it's about trust. Players have been watching, they've been seeing this song and dance play out for years now. We've watched as countless studios have injected gender ideology as a smokescreen for weak design, for shallow writing. Players have been treated like they're problems that need to be fixed and educated, and now they're just going to assume the worst. When you break your bond with your community,
They got rid of all of the people who knew what they were doing and put in people who agreed with them politically instead, who don't know what they're doing. They just hired all their friends.
break that trust that you had with them, even the thoughtful, creative choices that you make are going to get viewed through a lens of suspicion.
It's like a disease. You let them in and it just multiplies.
That's the cost of cashing in on your reputation. That's the cost of breaking your trust. And Marathon is about to show the entire industry just how expensive that cost truly is. I want to illustrate this for you guys because I want people to really understand this. If we change the context of this conversation entirely, we look at a game like Elden Ring or any From Software title, really, these games are drenched in body horror, divine transformation, and identity collapse. Characters that are mutating into gods, into beasts, into nothing at all in some cases. While there is clearly masculine and feminine figures within their narratives, the overwhelming aesthetic in these games is androgynous, grotesque, and symbolic more than anything else. Even their character creator uses body type A and body type B rather than traditional gendered language. And yet, no outrage, no mass backlash, no claims of agenda or people that are trying to dissect screenshots frame by frame. Well, I guess in some cases with America. But why is this? It's because
I'm going to be playing Dark Souls 1 remastered on my gaming channel pretty soon. Down there in the description, if you want to check out my gaming channel. I play a lot of old games. Anyway, enough with that ad.
the audience trusts From Software. I genuinely feel like this is what so many people in the industry fail to understand. The backlash rarely starts from the content itself. It almost always starts from the studio behind it. When players feel respected, when they feel like they can trust the developer's intentions, they're not going to be looking for reasons to criticize. They're invested. They want to believe. They want that game to succeed. But when that studio squanders that trust, players will scrutinize everything. They will attack everything because they are waiting to get burned again. I don't understand how industry veterans and writers are missing out on such an obvious shift in priorities from some of the most successful studios in this industry. Look at the studios that are out there that are earning goodwill right now. Larian Studios dropped one of the best RPGs that we've seen in years in Baldur's Gate 3. They sold it at a fair price. They packed it full of content, no microtransactions.
Almost everybody that I know that bought Baldur's Gate 3 hasn't even beat it. That's how much people wanted to play it. They didn't even care if they beat it, and they still put 200 hours into it. Still never beat it. And they're fine with that. That's kind of the point of it, because it's D&D. You don't really have to play to the end. You can kind of make your own ending, make your own adventure.
No season passes, no DLC. Even when fans were begging for more content, what did Larian do? They added it for free. They refused to monetize their player trust.
Not only did they add in new content for free when people were asking for it, people weren't asking for new content, and they still added a whole bunch of stuff. No Man's Sky did it, even though they lied at the beginning, but man, I can't fault them for that because there's no microtransactions. It's straight up like a single player experience that you can play multiplayer on. Just like the Xbox 360 days. There's no storefront. Everything is free. There's no DLC. That's different. So many amazing games are doing this now. Cyberpunk even did it. And look how they started. Still, no storefront.
From Software, right now, they're making Elden Ring Night Rain. Fully multiplayer focused game, no cash shop, no battle passes, or microtransactions. Hello Games has spent years now making No Man's Sky, adding more and more content to it, even when players are begging to give them money. They are dropping massive updates for free, transforming it into something that players actually love. The result? Trust, loyalty, excitement. These studios, when they go to announce their next project, these players aren't going to question it. They're not going to brace themselves for disappointment. They are ready to believe. They want to believe it's going to be great. That's the difference. These developers understand that their audience isn't something to be manipulated. It's something to be earned. Now, this may come as a surprise to you guys, but a lot of people from the industry watch these videos. I get a lot of feedback from developers. Hell, I just recently talked to a CEO. You guys are going to be hearing more on that later this week. But if you work for Bungie and you found this video for whatever reason, know that this isn't out of bad faith or anything like that. This is just genuine criticism, and I'm being realistic about the position that you guys are in.
I'm kind of doing it in bad faith. I do want Bungie to fail. They're a toxic company, just in it for the money, not for the passion of the game. They're creating for $1 rather than a dream.
And you have to do something about that. I don't know how you're going to. The clock is ticking. The game releases in September, and you have to somehow undo what's been done. You have to somehow regain player trust for a new game, and I just personally don't think that's going to happen. Not with what these players, not with what Destiny players have been subjected to over the years. Bungie, in my eyes, is the ultimate betrayal for gamers. We're talking about a company that has always been on the cutting edge of game design. Some of the best shooters that are out there, some of the best memories that they've created for players worldwide.
Since when, though? When was that? Because from what I remember, the last game that Bungie released that I just absolutely love was Halo Reach. When did that come out? Like 2009? That was like 16 years ago, bro. That was a long time ago. That's half my life.
Yet at the exact same time, they are the least ethical studio, in my eyes, in the entire industry. And it's not even close. I've never seen players treated the way that Destiny players have been treated. I'm one of them. I'm never going to forgive you for taking away content that I paid for without asking. And, I realize that the people to blame aren't necessarily the folks that are sitting at the desk that are working on these games. I guarantee there are some hardworking people that are working on Marathon right now, and to be honest with you, they don't deserve what's coming their way.
True, but I don't really care that much because, in my opinion, what I think about the developers has very little to do with what I think about the company and the game. Because if the developers are good and hardworking, they'll find jobs somewhere else. Maybe, unless AI takes over. But they'll get another job most likely. Probably at a better studio, because when somebody hears that, hey, I worked at Bungie, I'm one of the good ones, they'll get pulled up by Larian, they'll get pulled up by whoever made Space Marine, Bethesda, probably. I could see them, even though they're not a very good company. Companies like that.
You know who does? The guy that's been spending money like crazy, the one that has $2 million worth of classic cars in his garage, and also on top of that, the company that spent $3 billion on that company. They're the problem in this situation. They're the ones that need to figure something out. I'm going to tell it to you guys straight. I don't think that Marathon is going to flop the same way that Concord did.
True. Everybody's talking about it that way. I see a lot of people that I like to watch are talking about that, and I'm just like, nah, I don't think so. I think it's going to probably lose money, but they would lose way more money if they just killed it.
I think that there's enough brand recognition, enough power. That it's way more distinct. It looks cooler in general. I think people will give it a shot.
Also, if they license stuff into it, it kind of seems like a game that would totally do that.
Some people will give it a shot. But ultimately, looking at the kind of money that they need to make, keep in mind, Destiny 2 is not making the money that Sony needs Bungie to be making. They thought Destiny 2 was going to make more money than it did, and it's just consistently lost players almost year after year after year. And if this game comes out and does not meet the expectations of Sony, it's going to suffer the same fate as Concord. They're going to look at the studio. They're going to think about, hey, what's the cheapest way that we can continue to run Destiny 2 and make it profitable, and then just gut the rest of the studio. Use it as a support or whatever it might be, or probably just lay off everybody, to be honest with you. That's just been the trend that this industry has been going in lately.
Yep, lay off everybody, put ads into Destiny 2. I don't know if they can because Destiny 2's on Steam. Can't have mid-roll ads in the middle of the games. Microtransactions are going to get worse. They'll probably end up shutting down Destiny 2 in a few years, completely shut it down, and then Bungie's going to get shut down. Or maybe turned into like a legacy company that does stuff for old Bungie games, or old games in general, old FPS games that they have the IPs for. I don't know. We'll see.
But that's what I foresee. I just don't see it making the money that this company's probably expecting this game to make. Unless they have a bunch of other projects they plan on doing, but I don't think that's the case.
By the way, Bungie does have other games besides Halo. Do they not? Or am I thinking of Rockstar? I was totally thinking of Rockstar with that Oni game. I was getting Oni mixed up with Oni and Halo. Okay. That's all cleared up for me. Never mind. Scratch that.
Who knows? Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe they make some big changes. Maybe there's some finishing touches they add before the game. Maybe they delay it for a little bit and they give it a little bit of extra love that makes it a little bit more interesting for players.
I don't see them doing that. That's going to lose even more money if they delay it. They're probably going to release it when they say they're going to release it, and it's going to be unfinished and broken and a mess, and they're going to have to patch it and all the things that I said they're going to have to do. They're definitely going to have to patch it day one. They're going to have the day one patch, the week one patch, the week two patch, week three patch, so on and so forth. Probably never stop patching it.
No, maybe there is a incredibly broad audience that's out there that is looking for a streamlined extraction shooter experience, and this game is going to fit right into it, and it's just going to blow up. Personally, that sounds like a bit of a fantasy to me, but I guess we'll see. I've been proven wrong in the past. I'm not going to pretend like I'm infallible, not by any means. But yeah, I hope the game is good. I don't really necessarily want to see it fail because it does have a lot of things that interest me. And if it's fun and it's interesting, then I'm going to enjoy the game. That's basically how I've felt with most of these games that come out. I'm never going to necessarily pray for a game to fail, companies to fail. That's a completely different story. But games themselves, not necessarily, because, you know, I like having good games to play. But
same.
Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop a comment down below. Come follow me on Twitch, hang out. I keep pointing here, like I put the sign. I always forget it. You can just check the description or the pinned comment or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. As it stands right now, I don't see myself getting Marathon. I'll have to check out the story. I'm going to be doing a lore deep dive tomorrow. So we'll see you then. And I'll see you then if you're going to be back and check out my Marathon videos. Might be the last one I do, at least until some big news comes out about it again. Buy one of my shirts down there in the description. Also, this dude's link down there in the description. I'm out.